Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Walk On Podcast. My name is John Fairbanks. I am your host. And today is our episode 3 of our Netflix series, the Untold Swamp Kings docuseries. We're doing a companion episode that goes along with episode 3. So this takes us through 2007 to 2008. And tonight I am joined by a former Gator walk-on player that we played together named Roderick Blackett. And so it's awesome having you here, Black. Share a little bit about yourself so we get to know you before we get started into the episode.
Thanks, John. I'm Rod Blackett, played with the Florida Gators from the 2005 throughout the 2008 season. Two-time national champ, two-time SEC champ. Contributed a lot on special teams with Florida during my time there. From Fort Lauderdale, Florida, reside right now in Riverview, Florida, 2 beautiful daughters and a wife. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to whatever we're going to talk about. And I have my bourbon, by the way, so
good. And I've got Broken Skull with me, so I think we're going to be all right throughout this whole episode. Okay. One of my favorite things, like so I come in, I'm young, right, in 06. I come in, and the walk-ons for the most part have to, you all stick together, especially as like a class of walk-ons when you first come in. When you're brand new, you don't know anybody else. So at this point, you've all been tortured together in a hallway. You've had to like earn your way to get into the weight room. And I remember finally getting into the weight room, and I see you. Was it Mo Paul?
Yes.
And DeVoe?
Yes.
And I was like, sweet Jesus, those are walk-ons? Like, I just remember it was like you guys you were so goddamn strong. And this is before I got to see you guys like smash on the field, and just the reputation that you and DeVoe had when we would circle it up. I remember just being like, oh my God, like this is the most intense shit that I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, at this stage, I mean, you come in and you're walk on, you wasn't highly recruited. I'm not the fastest guy in the world. I thought I was pretty fast. I'm not the tallest guy. My arms aren't that long, So the best thing that I think I can outdo, and DeVoe felt the same way, is out hit people. Have more heart than people. And I think as a walk on, to earn your respect, and you hit it on the head, you have to earn your respect. And those that did not earn their respect, they never, really contributed the way they would like to. But we were all in, not only fighting it in the classroom, is fighting it on the field and earning your respect and hitting people and doing what you do best. Whatever that is, do it best. If you're the fastest walk on, be the fastest walk on. If you want to shake and juke, do what you have to do. My strength is hitting people. I felt that and DeVoe felt the same way, is that we don't blink when we hit.
Yeah.
We are going to bend your face mask, and that's what we're going to do. You're going to like it or not. And that got me to where I was. And I think Urban Meyer liked it a little bit. It sounds like you did too. I mean, it brought some juice.
Fucking everybody loved it, man. And it was good for me too, because I wasn't fast. I wasn't fast enough to play D-line. I wasn't big enough or strong enough even. And this is for those of you that know me in real life that are regular civilians, right? I'm oftentimes the biggest person in the room. And regular humans, you have to understand. For me at 6'5", playing between 250 to 315 pounds, I was the smallest guy out of all the lineman friends that I had that were on the team.
Yep.
So it's hard to fathom that, right? And so just like you said, it's like it was really good for me as a young age at 18 years old to see dudes like you that were showing like this is how you do it. And we never had the conversation. You know what I mean? I was like, you, DeVoe, you guys, I never talked to you about this.
Yeah.
But being a young dude coming in, being like, how do I get that black stripe, that fucking piece of electrical tape off my helmet?
Yeah, right? I remember.
Right? Yep. Like, how do I get that off? And it was like, I'm not going to beat Mon and Chevy in a foot race the way Sunshine was able to.
No.
I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to be stronger than everybody else. I'm not just going to just like freakishly throw people the way Spikes. I mean, Spikes was able to just toss offensive linemen, right? Like
I remember that, yes.
But I knew I was going to do that, but I knew I could smack. Like it's like, I can not blink.
And I remember you diversifying yourself too, and you start doing long snapping.
For sure.
You know, do what you have to do to earn that respect.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah. And so that was awesome. And we've never talked about this. I've never told you that before, but I figured this was a perfect time because it was really, really good. And so we come in. So we're fast forwarded into this episode. We're immediately kind of in 07 and we start talking about the recruiting class, that class of 07 that comes in. And it was so fun. So this has been the overarching theme. The thing that I loved about the series itself is that it helps me realize that, one, I have really bad brain injury and I can't remember shit anymore.
Okay.
And two, right, the series itself was great because all these memories did start coming back of stuff where you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot. And so you get to see these guys again, right when they came in. And so it's the Pouncey boys, it's Major, it's Ahmad, it's Joe Haden, it is Rainey and Hernandez and Cam. Yep. Like this 07 class it was crazy. These dudes coming in. And for the first time, not the first time, because I think Carl and maybe Tebow did it where they graduated high school early or whatever and came in.
Yes.
But there was a lot of dudes that just showed up in January.
Showed up, and I remember them showing up in spring practice.
Yeah.
No, sorry, not spring practice, but the spring workouts.
Right.
You know, this is January, February time frame, and Hernandez come in and he didn't have any tattoos one day, and the next day he's covered in tattoos that wasn't colored in yet. I mean, those guys came in. Joe Haden, I recall, and they came in to work, man.
They came in to work.
Those guys, I saw 06 come in. And 06 came in as a great band. That 07 team came in closer than 06 and complemented each other well. 06 and 07 coming in, they complemented each other big time.
Who was the dude that got recruited? It would be brutal to be told this all the time, and I can't remember exactly who it was. I have a hunch, so I'll let you tell me. Was just told you were just recruited because in order for us to get the Pounceys, they said you had to come.
I think that was John Brown.
Was that John?
I think that was John Brown, but because John Brown came in with Pouncey and with Paul and I can't think of I'm having a brain fart here.
What about Ahmad? Where was Ahmad?
Ahmad was there, but I don't remember them
riding his ass like that.
No, I don't. He recalled it and he had some interactions, but
yeah,
I remember John Brown was very strong, man. Jeez,
he was. That poor bastard couldn't read though.
Yeah, really.
Like that was.
I didn't know that
because I was in OSL. Like I was still like a red lighted OSL guy. And John was there. And I remember poor John working on some stuff that was his homework that was like really rudimentary, like English type stuff. And I remember being like, oh man, like this poor bastard. And that's why he ended up dropping. I don't think he ever was able to keep the grades. Like John just wasn't able to fly. And it sucked because for me, it reminded me of like a mini Joe Cohen.
Really?
Like a little miniature Joe Cohen had come in and I'm like, oh, okay. Like this dude's going to get
strong guy just going to clog up the middle. But I hope he's doing well, man. I haven't seen him or heard of him in a while. I hope he's doing well.
No, for sure. And so I want to talk about the Pounceys right out the gate. They weren't talked about like at all. And what was crazy when they bring up Rainey's story, with Rainey's story is Rainey and the Pounceys are like they're very much intertwined. Like I felt like the stories were that like Rainey lived with them. Like
so, I think so too. From what I've heard, I think so too. They were an integral part.
Yeah,
of transforming the 08, 09 to that championship and the leadership qualities that offense had too. A lot of folks followed them, but as you said, they didn't mention the Pouncey twins and give them the respect that I think that was due.
For sure,
a lot of respect for that 07 team and the things that we went through was left out. That could have shined light on why certain people did certain things.
Yeah, and I can't remember because I never was able to tell the difference between Keese or Mike, but it was I remember one of them just was like right out the gate was starting. I felt like offensive line was starting. And then the other one, he didn't. So they moved him to like nose tackle.
Yeah, I remember one being moved and they were exploring him with on defense. Don't remember if they started in 07 though.
I felt like one of them was like immediately was the guard or immediately was playing. But either way, the point of me mentioning the story was they were really like it just was they were there to play. They weren't there to sit. They weren't there to wait. They were there to be contributors right out the gate.
And they had the size. Both had the size to do defense or offense
for sure. You know? They played O-line like defensive line played D-line.
And they brought that swag too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there was the vibe. So in the idea of the realm of like being forgotten or these concepts of folks that are being forgotten, I didn't like. There was a line that Meyer uses in the episode where he goes like, Tim's the only one living right. And it just as soon as I heard it, it just was like, and again, it's blanket statements are what makes the world go round.
Yeah.
But there was like, it wasn't just like walk on, like there's lots of walk on guys living right.
Yeah.
Like, my God, like I was working really hard, like being a virgin and waiting till I got married to like it's, and all these things of like, oh, is it true? Like it's all these things of like these qualities that get attributed back to Tim.
Yeah.
And there was lots of dudes that were making those choices as well that weren't just like, you know what I mean? That weren't just walk-ons, that weren't just white kids. You know what I'm saying? Like it just was like, no, there was a lot of players on our team. Yeah. There was a lot of dudes that were all doing the right thing.
I really hope that Netflix edited what Meyer said when he said that. I hope he said, something as
I see what you mean.
Yeah, the right thing, and other folks did it too, but they just I like here that. It is. You have 125 folks on the team, right?
Sure.
As you said, you waited to marriage to have sex. Mm-hmm. There's other folks that I know also in my fraternity. There's folks like that. There's folks that was involved with the Christian ministry at the school. There's folks that I know that also that's on campus that was involved with the ministry as well. Saying that someone's doing the right thing is very subjective to the person that's judging. Is he doing the right thing because he's benefiting you, his family, or himself? But there was a lot of folks doing the right thing, making great grades, doing things that they think morally is right, and even what other folks would think morally is right. But saying he was the only one doing the right thing, I think it's not fair to the other 124 people that bled on that practice field.
No, that's real. So, now let's talk about this of being subjective. Just a little bit later in the episode, Meyer uses a phrase, Brandon James gets popped for buying a little bit of weed. Can we please talk about the fact that the amount of weed that he got in trouble for is the amount of weed that is now legal now?
Yeah. I didn't know. I don't know.
It was not enough, right? It just wasn't enough. But he gets popped. He's in jail and he's waiting, and just totally, it's so real when he's like, the only person he could think about was Meyer.
Yeah,
which that would be so real, right? It's just like getting kicked off the team is worse than like going to jail, or it's like it's worse than not. It was like that was the mentality for sure. Yeah. But it was Meyer then goes, Brandon James wasn't a bad guy.
Yeah.
And that could be a phrase that gets passed over, right? Pretty quick. Like you could just be like, oh, that whatever, and we keep moving. But it's like that phrase is loaded. And when you said the idea of like it's subject, like it's totally the eye of the beholder, bad guy was code.
Yeah, bad guy was code. And let me touch on that. And Brandon James is a good guy. To me, he's a good guy. That's subjective. To me, he's a good guy.
I would agree with that.
Meyer had this thing, and Seiler touched on it, maybe episode 2, maybe episode 1, where you have the Champions Club that ate lobster, and you have folks that ate hot dogs and hamburgers, right?
Yep.
So Meyer always differentiated between your value proposition. If you do well, if you treat the team right, if you treat him right, and you're a good player, then you're at this bar, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you're at this bar, right? If Brandon James or anyone else would have purchased weed and they were not a contributor, the question is, would he have said the same thing?
No. No, Blackett. No, he would not.
So this goes back on my subjectivity.
Right.
Is Brandon James a good guy to him because he was not replaceable and not deplorable? So
Yeah.
if you're replaceable and you do bad things, are you a good guy or a bad guy? And so there's plenty of folks on the team through my tenure that did things that, some might say was less, that got a bigger punishment.
Sure.
Or that he didn't want to investigate or look into further or give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And so that good guy, bad guy phrase, I hate it as a coach. Because you are these kids' parents. The parents put the kids in your hands so you can protect. So that's why Brandon James is looking to me. I would look as, or I'm in trouble, like a kid not wanting to show his parents the report card. I don't want to go home. Right.
Right.
But it's not for the parent to say, hey, this is a bad guy. What the parent should say is, how can I do better to teach this guy right for what I want him to see? Don't judge your kids. He's a kid. You can't say, oh, this kid is a bad guy, but he's on your watch, and and obviously the surroundings is not in his best interest. Teach him, coach him, help him. Don't say he's a good guy or a bad guy.
That comment you said, teach him, coach him, be with him. I talked about it in episode 1, where I tell my backstory here on the podcast, and that's the intro episode. And one of the things that I talked about was a frustration that I had just generally was, if you're going to walk a razor's edge, where you're going to go pull dudes out of some pretty gnarly circumstances, like lots of the dudes that we played with were pulled from gnarly circumstances and were brought in, and then almost just expected to just be able to exist in this new environment and know what to do and how to do it, what not to do. And I feel like it was a failure. And it's a failure that I wish moving forward, the dudes that made it, the guys that are ballers that went and played, you got to get to the next level and did all the things. It's like coming back with that know-how. Like if you were able to avoid all the problems that you easily could have gotten caught up in and you didn't, being able to come back and give that knowledge back to the community, whether it is those athletes that are now in college or those athletes that are in high school, it's those students need help. Like these neighborhoods, these areas, these communities that they're just going to continue to have their best and their best, their brightest, their strongest, their fastest get plucked out of their communities, put into university situations, and they're going to be destined to fail.
Yeah, it's and I don't think I've told many people this story, but first let me go back. So you're absolutely right. The question that many folks might ask, if you were to talk to your 19-year-old self, with your 19-year-old self or 20-year-old self will listen. And I would tell you that my younger self would not listen to me now. People, you had folks trying to tell you, but you had so much temptation around. So much temptation. But I think what a lot of coaches and people of leadership don't realize, when you take people from these from worse circumstances, is they don't understand those circumstances. So something happened with me. This is 2008 maybe, and I got caught with a firearm, legal firearm that my mom purchased for me right after the Virginia Tech shooting, I believe it was. My mom was scared. She purchased me a firearm. Everything was legal. I was driving, speeding, doing 35 and doing 35 and a 30. Got pulled over. Police pulled me over, guns were drawn, and luckily, one of the police officers worked with the program. Instead of locking me up or taking my gun away, they took my gun, they put it in a plastic bag, and they sent it to the campus. And they said the only way to get my gun is to talk to Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer got my mom on the phone, put your mom on the phone, and tried to explain to her, your son is walking around campus with a gun. I have no damn idea why he would do this. Blah, 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 and blows up. And my mom had to put him in his place and told him, Meyer, you don't understand the situation. You don't understand where my son is from. You don't understand what can happen in these classes. And you don't understand his surroundings. You don't know how he was raised. He's going to get his damn gun back. And he never understood that. He never understood that. And when I saw him again, he said, how are you and your crazy ass mom?
Oh my God, bro!
That's
No
exactly
shit.
how are you and your crazy ass mom? That's what he says in a jokingly way, but that's what he think or thought of the way my mom thinks.
Yeah.
So these other kids in other situations, what do you think about their parents? Brandon Sala's parents that came in, what do you think? Oh, your mom's crazy. No, that's my mom, and this is how I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
Raised me better, or very similar, but show me the ropes. Don't just be with me for 40 hours and let me spend the whole week and learn, figure it out on my own.
Dude, I feel that so hard because when I got done playing, my first gig at a school was I taught at a military school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what ultimately brought me to Virginia originally was I taught at a all boys military school.
Yep.
These were kids where 10% were there because they wanted to go military, and that was why they were there. The other 10% were there court ordered. And then the rest were kind of there because mom and dad had enough money to get them out of Dodge because they were getting in way too much trouble back at home, whether it was gangs or drugs or whatever.
Yep.
And the fact is that those kids, it was the exact same. It's really weird because ultimately, originally I would have said, well, it's linear, right? You have kids and communities and families that have nothing.
Yep.
And it's really hard to be able to be raised because you either don't have a mom and a dad, or mom's working hard, you're being raised by grandma, whatever. And then you have the kids that have everything. Yep. And it's linear, but it's actually it's circular. To where it's those that have not, like I just first described, the fact was that those kids that had tons of money, mom and dad still aren't around because now they're so busy, whatever, they're in their own head or they're in their own lives. Yep. So this kid now has way too much time on their hands and they get into trouble and they roll with wrong crowds or whatever. So those kids got out. And that was so real because when we were working with those kids, they just needed to be parented. Yep. They just needed to be supported. And dude, when you did parent teacher conferences and those families would come back, you'd be like, oh, that's why.
Yep.
And but the difference is that we didn't say, it wasn't like, how's your crazy ass mom, Rod? It's going to be like, Rod, I'm here for you. Like, it was like when I met some of those parents, I'm like, man, that doubled down. I'm doubling down on helping this kid because as soon as he goes back home, he's going to go back to that situation and I've got to give him something to be able to help him save himself. Like, it was just, and so I feel that so hard because it's like, dude, it's your responsibility. Like, you can't just be like, well, they're crazy, so whatever. Like, oh, well, good luck.
Yeah, you're right.
Man, that's a good story. 2007. So the episode continues to progress.
Yep.
And as we progress through this, there is we lose at home against Auburn.
Yep.
And they didn't really talk about it in the episode, but man, it was the very first thing I wrote down was like, we don't lose at home.
Yep.
Like when losing at home was really serious. Like it was not a little thing.
No. I mean, that was almost a sin. But before the losing at home, I recall before the season, no one ever talked about a national championship in 2007. Maybe once or twice people thought about it, but I recall Meyer saying, beat Tennessee, beat Georgia, beat Florida State.
Always.
You know what? If you can beat Tennessee, you can beat Georgia. You can get to Atlanta. You can win the East.
Exactly.
You get to Atlanta, we take care of business. You got it.
Right.
Auburn game. What I recall is that bloody Tuesday, and the bloody Tuesday, which is the hardest day of the practice. It was rained out, so we had to go to the O'Connell Center and do a walkthrough on Auburn, on a good Auburn team. And we didn't really practice. And Wednesday, it's not.
You can't practice in the fucking basketball stadium.
No, you can't. And
you know
I remember you had to take off your cleats and you had your shoes and everything was a walkthrough. Yeah. Wednesday was another rainy day, slow day, dragging our feet. Thursday, of course, is in shells. Friday is no practice, it's film and hotel. And Saturday we got our ass handed to us. I mean, we were on board, man. But then again, when we ran up to LSU and Georgia beat us, we knew. I think it felt like the team gave up a little bit.
Certainly after that LSU game.
Especially after the LSU game. What do we hope for? And if you recall, Meyer used to have a thing for bowl games saying you don't want to get the Velcro watch. The damn Velcro watch. You go to a good bowl game, you're gonna get good gifts. You're gonna get the Xbox 360s or whatever was out. You didn't want the Velcro watch.
Yeah.
So we lose to Auburn, we lose to LSU and Georgia, and now we're like, fuck a Velcro watch. We don't. It's like now we're in the Velcro watch stages. We're in the place that we don't want to be, and we gave up on that. I think a lot of the focus was, we got tossed by Michigan, and in Florida, in Florida, in Orlando. No one ever talked about that game afterwards.
It is like the game that we do not speak. It's like Harry Potter's Voldemort, right? We do not say his name. We do not speak of this game.
Listen, I hear about the Outback Bowl in 2005, then the Michigan game and the Citrus Bowl, but we don't talk about the Citrus Bowl. And that's a season that everyone wanted to forget. But we're on to the next after Georgia. We're on to the next thing, man.
And 07 really was just from bad to worse. Right. It was things that didn't get talked about that were bad stuff that happened that you easily double digits of dudes tore their ACLs that year. Like it just was.
And deaths. Michael Sunshine died middle of the season.
Yep.
Middle of the season.
Yeah. Bye week.
With the girlfriend of a football player.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was never talked about.
No. They do talk about Avery Atkins. So they talk about his passing in that episode.
Yeah. So they talk about Avery, but here's one thing. They talk about Avery in the documentary, but the coaches never talked about Avery to the team.
And that was the first thing that I said to you offline, right? The first time I remember hearing the name, but I couldn't tell you anything about Avery. And then when it was such a major part of the documentary, like, you know what I mean? A solid 2.5 minutes dedicated to it. Yeah. It really confused me. And when I first called you and said, hey, Rob, will you do this with me? Yeah. And we were kind of talking about things. I'm like, hey, tell me about the Avery Atkins thing. And because you were older, but it was that it did. And that's a shame because the feeling, if I'm being 100% honest, right? The feeling was, why did he get so much time, but like Michael got none? No. Like everybody on the team knew Mike. Like it was like there was no question. It was a major disruptor. Like we had a team memorial service for him where players like got up and speak, and they had to get like therapists for players that wanted to be able to talk to people. Like it was a major ordeal and was a ripple effect. Like you said, it wasn't just the death of a player, the death of a player's girlfriend. Like it was a major ripple effect. The girl was best friends with like other players' wives or future wives and existing girlfriends at the time. Like it was a major ordeal.
Yeah, I think Netflix should have put the Avery in episode 1. That was definitely an episode one type deal. It was an impact on those that knew Avery. But Avery came in 05. He came in 05. He passed in, I believe it was some summer 2007, maybe. But his passing had no impact on 2007 season. Those that knew him, especially that 05 class, and some of the folks before then, and some maybe some folks from 06, they talked about it, but it had no impact on football. It was very, very unfortunate, man. Very, very unfortunate. Young guy, man. You haven't met him, but one of the most athletic guys that I've ever seen in person. Mm-hmm. Very similar to, I don't know if you remember Jared Faison type.
I remember Faison.
Just an athlete, overall athlete. Yeah. Big, fast, strong. And it was just unfortunate. But there was other tragedies. Guilford was another one, not trying to say what's more important.
No.
But impact to that season was tragedies, injuries, and a lack of leadership, especially. And I don't say this to say anything bad about that 05 recruiting class, but those guys wasn't given the chance and the leadership that they deserve. Those guys, 05 was never talked about.
No.
05, Meyer kicked probably more 05 or got rid of more 05 than he kept. But that 05 gap and the losses with in the games, the losses with Michael, those are all things that think, hey, let's live life, let's party, man. Why not? Let's get out, man. Screw this. This is not the life. And it was, the coaches yelling screw this. Let's go out and drink.
If that's what it was, right? Like
Yeah.
it ended up being, it did. And that's where kind of like it was bad from bad to worse, like insult to injury, because at this point we get to that 07, and this is where the episode kind of starts finally getting to the place that everybody has been waiting for, which is they start kind of showing like some of the news clippings and some of the things that they were showing. And I remember they were showing, so they talk, let's first like Major Wright's chain incident.
Yep.
And I like the fact that they let Major just be like, listen, it was very simple. Yep. Where I'm from, if someone takes what's yours, you have to go get it back.
Yep. Yep.
The piece that I immediately, once it ended, I was like, I paused it and I'm like, oh, we've left out a major part of this story.
Yeah.
Which was the guy that takes Major's chain, he gets shot in the head that night.
Yep. So someone gets shot in the head, and they lived. They
I didn't realize that. So you told me that off air, and I was like, wait, what?
Yep. From what I recall, they end up living. They pointed some fingers around some players and some folks in the community, and it ain't go nowhere. It ain't go nowhere.
And I think that drama, right? Like that drama of it didn't go anywhere alludes to the part where one of the reporters in the docuseries kind of said things disappeared back then.
It didn't disappear. I believe the guy didn't want to testify anymore. So here's the deal. And this blows kind of blow my mind of things disappearing of what that guy alluded to. You have young inner city kids and black kids, right? They have access to one of the best lawyers in Florida that if it wasn't for football, they would not have been privy to.
Sure.
And if he found any type of discrepancy or any type of legality that can benefit his client, which of course is these football players, then they would get away. They're free, right? But this is the same thing that happens in corporate America. This is the same thing that happens to wealthy families. But because it's happening to this 18-year-old that family can't provide this service, then it's getting away. So it's not getting away. It's first, it got so much media attention that media can't just, is not the judge, the jury, and the executioner. But, from a legal standpoint, these guys did nothing wrong. Now, morally or whatever you have, then you can judge them based on, your character. But for him to say things went away, I don't think that's fair to say, because from a legal aspect, everyone, they were either innocent or was, not as serious as the media made it out to be. So.
And the media, of course, it's in their best interest to make it as salacious and as exciting.
Correct. And at that time, the University of Florida football players were targets. I've gone out on Saturday nights and my Friday and Wednesday ladies' night, and you was a target. You're a target from the police department. A lot of the times they weren't trying to protect you. I have stories about that. And you were also a target to some of the residents that lived in Gainesville. Those guys want to make a name of themselves. And,
sure,
as someone said in the documentary, we were trained to kill. If we're trained, like not killing, literally, but to hurt, to stop your will. And when these guys, and they're, 6'2", 200 pounds, and they want to test their strengths on you, you're not going to shake their hand and buy them a drink. You might want to choke them a little bit. So but no, we didn't. We everything didn't get brushed under the rug. Some players got kicked off the team for doing things that legally they were wrong for doing.
Right.
They were in the wrong. They got dealt with. Yeah.
One of the news clippings that made me laugh like out loud, and again bother my wife by pausing it and then explaining more to her, was when they show Ronnie's news clipping that said he was displaying a concealed weapon. And the reality was, the reason I love that so much, because it was, now that is the media, right?
Yep.
That's the media explaining it. But talk about like the idea of like, oh, well, things disappeared. It's like, hold on. Who helped get you this news report? Because Ronnie wasn't just displaying a concealed weapon. He pulled an AK-47 out of his trunk.
Yeah, that I recall that story. AK-47 being pulled. I think legally the guy was
legally.
I think the guy was trying to run him over. I think the guy
that was the
hit
story.
The gas. He hit the gas, was trying to run him over, and he shot. That was now what happened before that incident. You know,
is hearsay.
It's hearsay. It might not be true, but the guy, hey, listen, I carry firearms. You trying to run me over? It's more than shooting in the air. I mean, good luck. But he didn't just show a firearm. I mean, legally he was protecting himself. But that was an incident that made headlines. I remember it made headlines.
It did, and ultimately Ronnie did get kicked off. You know what I mean? He got suspended from the team, kicked off the team, and then they worked to kind of have him try and work his way back.
And there was some other incidents that happened to him that led him from being dismissed. Whether or not it's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah, there was it did. Ronnie had a stack of things, and I really enjoyed Ronnie because I was on scout defense in 06.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time hitting those guys.
Yeah.
So you just end up building like bonds with a couple of those guys. And Ronnie was one of those ones that he loved to smash. Like he loved to hit hard. Yep. And so he was always a pulling guard whenever I was at end. Yeah. So him and I were always going just helmet to helmet and like making each other see stars.
Yeah, he wasn't. And I went to high school with him. I went to high school with Ronnie, man, and he's always been, a very headstrong guy. I mean, on the football field, he's always been a monster. He's always been a monster. And another guy, and you're talking about, you take him from Pompano Beach. He's from Pompano Beach. I mean, and that's a really rough area. You take him and you put him in Gainesville, and you have these guys that just want to test him, and people come out of town and they bring their family from out of town, and that's just a guy you just don't want to test. We have a lot of guys that you just want to test. He was one of them. You just leave him alone.
I remember it was either 07 or 08. Goal line, where goal line set up, right? So it was perfect because it's right where one of the scissor lifts are with the camera that is filming, right? So they're filming right down, and we are all lined up because I'm on the defensive side, and so you would have been too, right? So we would have been, all of us are lined up on the back of the end zone.
Yep.
And offense is on the other side. They're all lined up with they're facing us. And then offense, defense are going against each other right on the goal line, right?
Yep.
And Keyston Moore comes in, scores. So D Harv is standing right in the back of the end zone, whatever. And Keyston walks up and pushes the ball into D Harv's chest.
I remember.
And then just turns and goes like he's going to go back to the huddle. And it was instantaneous.
Yep.
D Harv takes his helmet, which was
I remember.
Just full send.
Yes.
And it's going to hit Keyston in the back of the head with his helmet.
I remember.
And Keyston, just got that spider sense. And it's like, oh shit. And then just takes off. And it's like a full fight of everybody having to hold D Harv back. Yeah. I felt like it just took a whole bunch of dudes all holding the back because he was going to murder.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. You're right. I mean, you had some guys that just wasn't, just leave them alone. leave them alone. D Harv was another one. And you know what? Speaking of that team, too, and we're talking about like 07, D Harv was a part of 07.
Yeah.
You're talking about a first round draft pick. They didn't speak about D Harv. That leadership. Listen, that was one of the guys.
Dude, Jarvis Moss was a first-round draft pick, and they never said his name except for the South
Reggie
Carolina game in 06. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, Blaylock and I talked a lot about the fact that Reggie was left out. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. So you had some folks. You had some folks, man.
And it was, I remember Coach Mark. But again, I'm young, I'm impressionable. And Coach Mark goes, I don't even fuck with D-Harf. I stay away from D-Harf. I was like, okay. Like, Coach Mark, for the listeners, right? Coach Mark, big, former NFL, defensive lineman, big Jamaican dude. Like, he's like, nope, you don't fuck with D-Harf.
Fairbanks, how did he say it?
I can't do it again. I'm not doing it again.
But it was some good guys. It was some good guys, but
it was and you really got to know those dudes. So one of the things that I did like that I don't remember in 06 and definitely remember in 07 and in 08 is that when we get to fall camp, so we're now out of the 07 year, and we get to in fall camp 2-a-days, and we start doing these sessions where dudes are bleeding on each other.
Yeah, we did that in 06 too.
Oh, I don't remember as strongly.
Yep. We did that during fall camp. Yep,
fall camp. But I remember it very vividly. Once now you're established, and man, it helped, right? It really did help.
Yep.
To hear some of the stories and hear that background, the fucking heartbreaking stories.
Yep.
Of what these dudes are and where they came from and what the adversity that they have climbed out of, and then you have Jim Tart come and say his life was wonderful and he doesn't know what the fuck everyone's problem is. Which
I don't remember Jim Tart being up there, but
Tart
I do remember Jim Tart being up there saying they were in the classroom and they went out the window to go fishing, and then they came back to class with a bundle of fish. Some country boy.
Well, what I remember the most from Tart was that he was like, I have a loving mother and father. My life was fantastic. I got nothing. I can't what his point was just like, I don't know why I'm here right now. I don't know why I'm speaking to you all, because I don't have a story. I don't have a story to tell. Just like you said, it's just I'm from South Choppy, Florida. There's 2 stoplights, and this is, thank you. I'm gonna sit down.
For the most part, that bleeding on you was, it was very touching. It
was rough, absolutely.
Especially for those that have gone through things and those that have seen things, to understand that. To me, it was more so you're not alone. You're because a lot of times a lot of players would have think, they're alone. Like I'm the only one. And Steve Harris, I remember Steve Harris's story, and I was thinking, you know what? This is someone that his background relates to mine just a little bit. But that's how I felt. It's like, you know what? There's other folks, other people on this team that have seen or experienced things that I've seen. I did appreciate those. I mean, it was only maybe a few because it was only during 4 days.
Yeah,
but we could have used more of that during the season. I
would agree with that.
A lot more of that, and it would have brought the team a lot closer together too.
I would agree with that. Not having some of those things. There were a number of things that they tried to do during the off season that were valuable pieces where they did try to do like skills and help us try and figure shit out or do different things that I did find value in. We get to, so ultimately we get, Tim wins that Heisman Trophy in 07.
He wins it.
And it was it felt like the only thing that was good that happened that year.
Yeah.
And we get into the off season in 07 and 08. And we have to touch on the fact that it was a miserable off season.
What?
You know what I mean? And we'll start with stadiums, because we had to run stadiums for every loss that we took. Yep. And it was the most losses that you and I ever experienced was in that single year. I think that single year was more losses than we experienced in our entire career of all those other years combined.
That's true. Correct.
You know what I mean? Like it was 4 losses. So it gives you an idea of like what, and then we had to run 4 stadiums
Yep.
in the winter, and then 4 stadiums in the spring.
Yep.
And again, I've said it before, but I'm from Southern California.
Yeah.
So my background in Southern California, I knew nothing about Florida until I got to Florida, right? Nothing. I knew nothing about the rivalries, nothing. And it was at this moment in the offseason for 2007 when they are taking us in at 5:45 in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning, showing us the highlights of Georgia, dancing in the end zone in 07, and then making us go run every step in the stadium 4 times. Like it was the hate, like this eternal forever hate for Georgia was like permanently implanted in my soul.
Yeah, and people don't understand when if you say stadium, they don't understand how big the stadium is. I mean, you're talking about, and then it's not just the main part of the stadium; it's the parts of the stadium that you have to run up the ramp to. I mean, someone said we had to touch every stair in that stadium.
Every step.
It goes up 90. I counted. Goes up 90. It comes down 90. And on one side, I believe it goes up 5 or 6 times. Each side. And then you have the end zone. And then you have the nosebleed sections
which were terrifying. The nosebleed sections were terrifying to be running. Hell yeah.
I thought I was gonna fall in and die because I could not walk. We started at around 5:45, 6. Yeah. We ended, the sun was up and shining.
Yeah, it was dark, right? You were starting and it's dark, and then the sun is out by the time.
And you had, Tim Tebow, and I remember Seratino there in the front.
Just cruising.
We had cruising, man. And my big old legs, man, they wasn't gonna make it. I'm too big for this. I just want to hit someone, man. I just want to hit someone. I don't want to run stadiums, man. But that year, I remember it was being brutal. We had no water park. So
no water park. Oh my God, I have not thought about the water park.
No water park. So in 2005, we went to the water park.
So this is this is during 2-a-days.
2-a-days. We went to the water park in 2005. Lost 2005. 2006, we went to the water park. 2006, we did not go to the water park. We won the national championship. 2007, we're going to 2-a-days, and we passed the practice, and we go on the bus, and we go to the water park down in Ocala, and we lost the season. 2008, guess what? Fuck it, no water park.
No water park, motherfucker.
Water park makes us lose. So no water park, stadiums, brutal workouts, man, and at this time, too, you have to realize, and Brandon Spikes is a little bit older. The Pouncey's coming in. They know that, it's their time to shine. Yeah. Everyone wants to get stronger. I have a clip about the bench pressing. I do bench press like 31 times. You see Aaron Hernandez, maybe a freshman, sophomore, doing it 30 times.
Right. So for listeners, right, this is the bench press. This is the 225 rep test. That was the combine rep test. So this is 225 pounds. So Blackie, you did it 31 times on this, and I have a chart of it. Hernandez is on it. You see, I remember the chart, right? I remember the chart that was in the weight room that showed everybody.
So everyone's getting strong. Everyone's pissed off. We don't want to do damn stadiums, but it was so brutal, to your point, that we knew that we was not going to do it next year.
No.
We knew that we were not going to do it next year. I remember doing wall sits with 2 45-pound plates on my thighs.
While your partner does while your partner does plate push around the fucking skin, dude. Yeah.
I did not want to do it. I remember Joe Haden. Oh, he's gonna hate that I tell this story. I remember one day he came in and he went out partying the night before.
Joe could party.
And Coach Mick took every weight in the weight room and put it on the ground and told him to pick it all of it up, walked into the training room and said, I need you to call the damn ambulance. I'm about to break Joe Haden's fucking back. And then everyone knew, don't come in here drunk. Don't come in here smelling like alcohol. Don't come in looking like you're smelling like alcohol. This is a new game. So it was a new sheriff in town. At the same sheriff, but different set of rules.
Different demeanor.
Saying, you know what? Fuck this party and shit. and they highlighted it in the Netflix. But we are here. We are going to kill people, not literally, but
oh yeah, they were going to physically try and kill us.
Yeah,
like there was a couple workouts that it just was like they were going. It was truly why all of us can sit back and say, like, there's nothing that my boss can say. There's nothing that can happen in my life at this point that's going to be more stressful, that's going to put me more in a corner than I already have been.
Correct. And they put us in corners. That's when they started making us circle up. They brought out the tug. I don't know if you recall the tug.
We didn't use it, right? I went against maybe Hobbs or Barry, like right when I was there, and then we didn't do it anymore. It got taken away.
I think I remember the tug. Maybe that's 06, but geez Louise. I mean, they pinned us against each other and separated offense and defense in a really strategic way.
Oh yeah.
That made everyone come together. Spikes, you have the offense with Major and and Company, and you have some other folks over there.
The defense
and then on the offense is Tebow and the Pounceys and bringing the goddamn juice. You have Murph bringing the juice, and to collectively, we are going to go into the 2008 season, and we're going to see what we got. And I remember watching the documentary. We just knew in 2008 we were probably the fastest team ever assembled and also the strongest.
We were ready. There was no doubt, right? Like the vibe was radical.
Oh, it was there. It was. Listen, we have the fastest team because remember, Meyer used to say, "Cut the grass low, and let's see who runs a 4-2." Right? Let's see. We had the company of we made sure we were fast. I remember that summer, Lewis Murphy running. I think he ran that 4-2-4.
4-2, yeah.
And everyone was like, "Holy smoke!"
Yeah,
we thought Jeff Demps was going to smoke it out with the 4-2-4 or whatever it was, or Percy. But when Murph did that, everyone just knew, like, dude, no one can stop us. No one. I don't get. You could put at that time maybe the Browns or the Dolphins in front of us, and I didn't. No one cared about any team.
No, and it was, and when we say like a Murph running a 4-2, the reason why that was a big deal was Murph was not perceived to be the fastest dude on the team. So understand that we had a bunch of other dudes all running 4-3. It's like they were all in that 4-3 sub 4-4 arena. So they were frighteningly fast.
You had Chris Rainey, you had Riley Cooper, you had Jeff Demps.
Coop was another dude that just never got mentioned at all, and Coop was fantastic.
But I would say that's the fastest white boy I ever seen. Jeez, that is some freaky speed, man. Jeez Louise.
And the fact that he was that fast and he was built like a goddamn tight end. You know what I mean? He was big and had such an anger problem. That was so angry.
He was another one, you know. To me, he was one of the coolest guys on the team.
Without a doubt.
You just did not mention him.
Nope.
You did not mention this Riley Cooper. Come on, man.
No, he was he was a stud, and he was a stud because, and I enjoyed it because, again, ultimately, like you alluded to earlier, like I become a specialist, right? I become a long snapper, and I remember Coop earning his way on special teams, just being a monster on kickoff. And my favorite part about when Coop first shows up is he's got these huge old truck nuts on his truck.
I remember he had the truck nuts. Like, what the hell are those? Yeah.
And at that point, I don't think I'd ever seen them before.
Yeah.
So this is the first pair of truck nuts I had ever seen.
Yeah,
just these huge fucking testicles off the bottom.
Yeah. I don't know what were the eggs in there. I don't know what that was.
I don't know what it was, but it was awesome. And I remember him and Papello were boys, like when they first came in, and they were a hell of a combination, the two of them together.
Yeah.
So there's a cool a clip that gave me a lot of great memories where they show it's a coach. He's passionately talking. He's in a white shirt. He's got a mustache. He's bald. He's talking. He's clapping a whole lot. And again, you can tell he's giving a speech. And this is Steve Adazio.
Yeah.
And when we used to go to the hotels, we had as we did hotel to go play, whether we were home or away, we had a really strict, like regimented schedule of where we were, how we went to dinner, and then we would have these moments where we would have either team meetings and all that kind of stuff as we prepped to go to the game. And Adazio, it rotated, right? It wasn't always Adazio. At least I don't think it was always Adazio.
No, it was always Adazio.
Was it always Adazio?
It was always Adazio.
But he gave kind of like that final speech at breakfast.
At breakfast, yep.
And he used to bring the juice.
If you could compare any speech to it, it would be the inches speech from Any Given Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know till this day. I don't know if Adazio wrote this stuff down, but he delivered the best speeches. And what Netflix did, they took a rated G version. So Adazio, from what I recall, he didn't care for ladies to be in the room at that time, out of respect of what he might say.
Yeah.
And I recall, one time him slamming down and cutting his hand on some glass, and he brought the pain. If you wasn't fired up at breakfast, you didn't want to touch that field. I mean, he made you so amped up. I mean, this is before the video. And the video guys, shout out to Maurice Walker, who contributed to that. They created these videos for us right before the game.
Yeah, we're all dressed
right before
up.
we got on the bus. They created these videos about the team that we're playing, and they might have a 300 clip or some clip that's going to give us
the Matrix, Gladiator,
something. But the Adazio juice, that's what I remember is calling Adazio. Give some of that Adazio juice. I mean, that was by far the biggest motivational speeches that I've probably ever heard today. He can give Ray Lewis a run for his money with his Adazio speeches. I guarantee it.
Yeah, and there were phrases that I've heard plenty of times post, but they were the first times as a young kid hearing them, of just the idea of like, tough times don't last. The idea of like tough people do. Like these phrases that he just was like, he just would, like you said, he would hit it one after another, and it did. It was you were ready. You were super amped, and then you had to go nap because the game was at 7.
Yeah.
You had to hang out at the hotel for the rest of the day.
So much for us being as good because we had a lot of night games.
It was wild, man. It was wild because we would be at the hotel and you'd just be watching College Game Day
all day.
You'd just be watching it all day, just laying in bed, and you are about to go play. Like you're about to go play LSU at the Swamp in 6 hours, and we're kind of just hanging out, and they're just
hanging around.
And I felt like the team did such a good job because it is this really strategic game that you're playing, where you have to you can't let your team peak too early.
Yeah.
If everybody blows their wad at 3 p.m. and you have a 7 p.m. game, you've got a serious problem on your hands.
You're right. I think they did a very, very good job in, hydrating. I remember Coach Mick knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Making sure you had your Gatorade. We didn't have a lot of cramping issues on the field.
We did not. And it was when you walked into your hotel room, it starts in 2-a-days, right? Yeah. And essentially it just was as much Gatorade as you could physically consume. So you had, 2 big, they weren't pallets, but, big like 24 pack type Gatorades that were waiting for you.
Yeah. Chug it. That's what he will say.
Hell yeah. When you walk in, so they would walk in, and whenever we were in our film meeting rooms, right, watching film or whatever, they would just pop in every once in a while. It was like bottles up. And if you did not have a bottle with you, like you were going to get your ass reamed. So you always had to have something to drink. We get hyped up. The thing ends, we lose. Right? So climax is high. We lose to Ole Miss. And wait. So this is the end of the episode. We lose, and it was devastating. At this point, it is, I have earned a spot finally to play. I was so driven to get off so that I no longer Blackett those Friday morning workouts for walk-ons.
Yep.
Get fucked, man. That was so horrible. I just remember being like, I would literally do anything. I would do anything to just not have to do this anymore. And that's when I learned about the rocker position on the field goal team, which was essentially putting yourself on a cross and allowing 3 guys to hit you as hard as they could while they tried to block a field goal. And so Hobbs gets hurt. His knee gets hurt, and I'm his backup. And there was few words that I resonate with deeper when Spikes was like talking about, I'm waiting for you to mess up, Siler, so I can take your job so you will never get it back. And it was like, that was so real for me, where it was just like, Hobbs got hurt. I will never mess up. I will never get in trouble. You will never get this job back. So I get to travel in 08. Well, it is the guard tackle. I'm one more over that the block comes from. And I remember just being like, it was devastating that the PAT gets blocked. And you're like, and in the back of your mind, you kind of like, okay, well, like, Tim will take care. Tim will take care of it.
Yeah.
And then we weren't able to.
That game, and I remember especially the end of the game very vividly. It was different than 07. 07, the game there, we lost, and we knew we were gonna kind of come back, but there was still some uncertainty in the air, right? So 07, and I just kind of want to give people a layout of what happens after a game, right?
Yeah.
When Tim Tebow gives his speech, no one hears his speech. You hear his speech possibly on ESPN the next day,
TV for
right?
sure,
or maybe Monday, right? But we're not privy to hear his speech. While he's doing his speech, everyone else is in the locker room talking, right, or showering, right? So I just want to give someone, one of your listeners, just a visual.
Because it's a media room that's like it's down the hall. It's
correct. The media room down the hall.
Room.
You go to the media room, so as a few players go. So we go to the locker room, and everyone know, listen, we fucked up. Everyone knows that this will never happen again. And you can look at everyone's faces. It's not anger. It wasn't anger. It was, why we are here. We know the mission. We fucked up. It will never happen again. This is the emotion in the room. You hear people talking, and you like, listen, screw that. We're on the next week. Whoever we have next week, we are going to punish them. So we're going to punish everyone like they have never been punished.
Yeah.
And when Tim did his speech and we heard after the fact, it was only to regurgitate or let the folks know what we were already feeling.
In the whole locker room.
In the whole locker room. We already knew, like, listen, no one can touch us. It's just Ole Miss, and something's telling me, I haven't looked at the weather report, that before the Ole Miss game came, I think we probably had rain. No practice.
You're feeling that rain.
Maybe I'm in Tampa. We just had some rain. But you have to think about, most football teams are really good, but preparation is really what wins games, and we wasn't prepared for that moment. We didn't practice, if that was the case. But I think we may have rained that day. But we already knew. Listen, no one's going to beat us. Right. No one's going to beat us. So he regurgitated exactly what we were feeling, but to the public. Usually the public is not privy to the locker room.
Sure.
But that locker room feeling, if you recall, man, geez, we weren't. I don't care if the New England Patriots at that time was going to come in. Randy Moss was locked down. I don't care. But that's what we felt, and that's how the episode ended. It was one of the most memorable moments in the locker room that I probably ever felt.
Yeah.
Besides Tennessee, 2006.
Yeah. It's interesting of a point that you make, which is the idea where it's normally when players and coaches talk to the media, you get we take it one game at a time. They were a great opponent. You get the usual bullshit.
Yep.
The typical coaches speak, or the usual lines that you give. Yep. But it was a rare moment where it wasn't that. Right? Tim does just say, this is where we're at. Like, this is what I'm feeling. And I'm literally just going to go, like, essentially off script. And it does become iconic. But in all fairness, I don't think it becomes iconic until we win. Because then it's like messianic. You know what I mean? Then it's like it was a fortune teller. It was like, this will never happen again. Then we go undefeated the rest of the season and we win. And then it becomes Tebow's promise.
So I think, it for the folks, it does. It's almost like he's the fortune teller, like he was the savior of the season. And I don't want to take anything away from the speech. Great. He gave the speech to the public. But that speech was already said one way or another in that locker room at the same time.
Sure.
Tim at the time was the leader of our football team. He was a major contributor and a leader of that football team. And I don't think the Netflix did a huge focus on what I'm going to say is Tim wasn't the leader of that football team. To the public, he might have been the leader. But there's other guys, Major Wright, that got us some pretty good juice. Brandon Spikes, you're going to give us some juice. Louis Murphy, you have the Pouncey twins. You also have Houston Moore with the dance moves, with some of his Texas buddies. But Tim Tebow can rally a few folks, but everyone didn't gravitate towards him like you would think. So that promise speech, he didn't come into the locker room and everyone gravitated towards him, and he made this speech of he would never, do whatever he had to do to win the game.
Yeah.
Whether you do what you had to do or not, we're winning this damn game. We had some leaders, and I hate that Netflix did it, but we had some people in that locker room that people, Brandon Spikes, people gravitated towards that energy. Major writers, people gravitated towards that energy. His speech was great. His speech was a great speech. It's engraved in the stadium.
It is.
But I wish that the media had, other speeches that was giving, minus some of the F-bombs, engraved on that stadium too. Because that speech spoke of what we were already thinking, or we already knew. I mean, we went into 2008. We went in there and we blew everyone out of the frame. I mean, if you look back at those scores, I mean, good luck.
Oh yeah, man. We played Kentucky, and I told this in one of the other episodes, but it was, again, I was a rocker, and we scored like 70 points plus on Kentucky, and they only rushed my side the entire time to block field goal. So I got a concussion that game. I got hit so hard, so often, that I got to the end of the game, and like my wife had to watch me overnight. Like it was like I got fucked up that Kentucky game.
And back then, we didn't talk about concussions. I mean, Meyer would say, "Can you play?"
Yep. And you didn't tell anybody. No. That's what's real. What was real was, I'm not telling. The only concussions that I have diagnosed were ones that I couldn't hide.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just was like, well, I want to keep playing. And again, if I don't play, I lose my spot.
You lose your spot. As you said before, that you said I would never lose a spot. I've had many concussions. And they did the study on the CTE type of deal. Yeah. And I'm quite sure I'm going to have my brain examined. I've took the test for potential CTE, and I'm probably, have it. But that's something that the Netflix also never talked about is,
CTE. Aaron, right? So Hernandez, right? It's fair. Let's talk about Hernandez for just a minute. It was, right? They open up his brain and is the youngest person ever diagnosed, right? With all that going on in his head. And it just is like, well, is it because he's the youngest one we've tested before? But then it just is, there's just no, I don't know. It's such a wide paintbrush that they've painted him with.
Yeah.
And that was what was always irritating to me, because it's, what are the number one questions you get, right? You played for Florida? Yes, I did. Did you know Tim Tebow? Yes, I did. You played from 2006. You like, oh, yep. That means you played with Aaron Hernandez, right? Yep. Like it's just those are the normal questions, and then we get to where it was like, what was that like? Because now Aaron's documentary, right? His documentary, right, came out years ago. So there's lots of folks that think they know.
Yeah. And they don't know. And here's another thing, and I don't think I've ever told anyone this. I recall one day me and Aaron and a coach, we're out to practice, and Aaron needed some help doing some a drill. He was doing a drill that we had to bump heads a lot. And like I said before, I don't blink. I'm not blinking.
That's why they brought you.
Yeah, I'm going to hit, and the coach was adamant that I give him all that I got. And I was giving him a lot, right? And in a helmet, and I just want to put a helmet is like this, right? And if you can read, you only can read the eyes.
Yeah.
And I was reading Aaron's eyes, and it was, I don't want anymore type of deal. And at the time, the coach, he's telling us we're about to line up, or we are about to go, and he's shaking his head to me, no. You can see it, but the only thing you can see his head, like look at, like no.
Yeah.
And so I know that he don't want to hit anymore, and that I know that it's hurting him, because you can look at his eyes, and we're maybe 20 times in,
right?
And I'm not going to stop.
Well, I understand this emotion.
And you can look at him like, no. And he's not the first person to do this, but his eyes is telling. I knew something wasn't right, because he usually Chico want to go at it,
right?
And I'm like, damn. And he's a kid, because if you recall, Aaron was young when he came to the team, maybe 16, 17, maybe.
Yeah, 17, I think. Yeah.
And I'm a grown man, and I'm strong at this time. I'm bitch pressing a lot. I'm ready to show my power. And I felt bad. I felt that's the first time that I ever felt bad for him. Aaron is the only person that I've ever felt bad of hitting in practice. And I never I don't think I've ever told anyone this story. I felt bad because I knew something wasn't up. That this young kid is hitting me like this. And he knew something wasn't up, yet he kept going.
Yeah.
And people don't want to, the documentary don't talk about the circling it up. We lived on the circle up.
Mm-hmm. You and DeVoe.
You put me and DeVoe 10 yards apart.
Yeah.
And tell us to mash each other helmets in.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to bend each other face masks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you tell me to go out and have fun with the local folks that's trying to beat me up. Good luck.
But that's real though, man. And it's talk about, I really appreciate you telling that story, right? Because it's very real, and it does highlight a piece that there's a lot of conflict in that entire story, right? Because it's, as a walk-on, you don't have worth. And I'm not trying to get dramatic, but it just is like you don't. You really have to earn that. You have to earn.
There's no investment in you. There's no investment. Yes, correct.
And we're very important, right? You don't have a scout team. If the scout team's not good, they don't go hard enough. It doesn't get the team ready for Saturdays. Like all that is given. But I'm talking individual worth to know, for them to know our names. Yeah. We have to have done something. And there's a reason why you were chosen. Yeah. That coach wanted someone to bang. And they wanted them to smash them, and they wanted. So you are coming, and the fact is, there's a real thing where, as a walk-on, if you had the ability to defeat the will of a scholarship player, it got you feeling pretty good.
That's exactly how I got my name.
You know what I mean? Like that's
exactly how I got my name,
and that's how I got, and that's how I earned my. You know what I mean? That's how I got mine as well. So it was that thing where it was. To have you be in that moment where you see that, and it's like you essentially are fighting like that human connection. Yeah. You're like just pushing it down and being like, he doesn't want anymore. Yeah. And yet I'm going to continue just to give it as hard as I can, because it's what my job is. Like it's why I'm here. Yeah. That's
that was hard. Now I think about it as I get older. I think about it. I think, damn.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, no mention of that, so we get to just skirt by, right? No mention of Aaron, no mention of some of those pieces, so we get to skirt by any conversation of head trauma or brain trauma.
Yeah, it's no mention of that. It's no mention, and maybe they're gonna have a part two of it.
You are very kind. You've made some two kind comments of like maybe this was edited wrong and maybe they're gonna do a part two.
Maybe they'll do a part two, but there's so many intricacies in the seasons, even that episode. There's so many things that talked about it. Now these guys in 06 and 07, they're older and they're looking at hindsight, but you cannot, or they could not have expected the 2016 to lead the 2017, right? Because they're young. You can't expect sophomores and redshirt freshmen to lead a team to a national championship. It was just unrealistic without any support, especially without the support of a diminishing 2005 team and very little folks from 2004. So when 2007, 2006 were the leaders. They were the people, that was up for the Heisman. You remember the Heisman could have gone Tebow, or if the school wanted to, they could have added Percy. No one talked about that too. Percy was just, if not the most, he was the Tyreek Hill before Tyreek Hill. And they didn't really mention him.
I will tell you that Percy doesn't get mentioned, right? Like Percy, his mentioning is very minimal. And I think it is universally believed that Percy, at least what my opinion was now, and I've heard totally unprompted by me, and I've heard other folks say the exact same thing, which was Percy was probably the greatest, like one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like it's how important he was to the team was he was like vitally important to the team. That's why it was such a big deal when he's out and his ankle is sprained and he's not going to play in the game. Like it just is like, this is a problem. Like this is going to be an issue.
And even Percy in 2000 and 2008, one thing that they did not mention was people like Jeff Demps. We won these games because you had people like you had Jeff Demps, you had Percy, you had Rainey, you had Cooper, and you had this freakish speed from 2007, 2006, and the 2008 recruiting class. So not only did 2006 and 2007 help lead into those big wins in 2008, but you didn't talk about that 2008 recruiting class either, which they were also good.
Yeah,
they were also good. It left a lot out. It left a lot out. Maybe because they only had 4 episodes. If I were them, I would have done it to 8 episodes. I would have highlighted some of the things that people don't know. They don't understand. They saw a little bit of the mat drill, but you don't understand that we used to wake up every Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock to make it at 5:45. And if you were late, that's to leave. What happens when you're late? Put on that vest and you're going to work out. Do 100 pull-ups with a 50-pound vest on. So, it's a lot of things that they left out. It's a lot of folks that they left out. Not that I don't think it's fair. Chris Leak, they left out.
For sure. Yeah, we talked about that quite a bit. Blaylock and
Cam Newton, they left out.
Cam, and it is 08, right? So, that we were talking about like a little bit of, we're not quite there in the 08 season when Cam gets kicked off the team. Right. We're not quite there yet. Like, I think it happens after I think he's still on the team at this point of Tebow's promise, I think.
No, he's on the team. So Cam leaves the team, 2008, I believe it is.
Well, yeah, we're in 08, right? Like we're in 08.
December 2008.
Oh, it was in December.
On the team.
I didn't realize how late it was.
They don't talk about Cam. Some other things, rumor had it that, they were going to move Cam to tight end. I sat in at one point, I went over to fullback and fullbacks and tight ends had a meeting, and I remember Aaron Hernandez saying, "You guys are moving Cam to tight end," and the coach at the time said, "Oh yeah, we are," and they wanted Cam. I don't know if it was a joke, but
yeah,
they wanted to move Cam to tight end. So even talking about not kicking someone off the team, Cam purchased, from what I heard, a stolen laptop. I don't know the truth of it, and he wasn't no longer on the team. And to this day, he never got a ring either.
No, and I heard that. I saw him post about that.
He never got a ring either. Cam deserves as much credit on that team than a lot of people.
Sure.
He kept Tim Tebow, to my opinion, he kept Tim Tebow at a higher level because Cam was coming for his throat. And everyone knew it. If Tim didn't, I remember Cam throwing the ball and everyone saying, "Geez Louise, did you just throw that, 70, 80 yards in practice?" So he kept, but they don't mention him either, but maybe another episode.
Another episode. I love that. Another episode. Yeah. Well, man, Blackett, I really appreciate you coming on, man, and doing this companion episode for this. It was awesome. It's been a great time being able to sit. It's you and I haven't gotten to, even when we played together. I told Blaylock this. I spent a lot of time with Blaylock. You and I, we spent time like practicing, like in the locker room. But at the end of the day, like we just spoke for almost 90 minutes straight, looking deep into each other's eyes, cameras, whatever. Like it is. But so I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you for having me. I enjoy everything that you're doing. I do follow you. I enjoy everything you do. I don't post a lot, but I look to you, man. And so keep it going. If you need me for anything, keep me in the loop. I'm here. I'm glad I was able to, and you were able to provide me with some honest truth of what we experienced. Yeah. What I said to you today, and I hope what you said to me is our experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be the truth, but it's what we experienced at the time that we were there, and no one can take this from us. I mean, if anyone have any questions, they can always reach out to me or, post it and counter it. But this is my experience. This is my truth, and I hope you've given yours. So,
yeah, absolutely, and it is. I think it's a good way. This is the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, just in general, as the Walk On podcast, is because walk-ons have very unique stories to share and stories to tell. Being a college athlete is already unique enough. And being a scholarship athlete is unique in its own right. But I wasn't one, I earned a scholarship. Ultimately I got my master's degree paid for once I got to that level, but we weren't, we didn't get recruited. Our story, the walk-on story is unique and is demented because there's something wrong with us. Because people didn't want us, and yet we forcefully showed up and said, "Hey, we are here, and we're here to be able to play." And that's why I want to be able to highlight those stories. Can we have? Is there anything that we want to highlight for you, Rod, that you're working on? Anything that you're doing that we want to make people aware of, or to follow?
I do have a business that I started. I did patent an idea.
Okay.
Customized decals on your fence.
Like the vinyl fencing, right?
The vinyl fencing.
I remember seeing those.
So that is my patent. It was an idea. I have, 2 patents on it where no one can replicate it. I do sell a lot. It's mycreativepanels.com. And if you have a vinyl privacy fence and you want a customized image, even if it's a Gator image on your fence, then you can go to mycreativepanels.com and I can get it for you.
That would be awesome. Yes. I'll put a link to it in the description for this episode as well, mycreativepanels.com. And that's awesome. And do we want to follow you anywhere, Ron? Do you want folks to follow you?
Every link is on mycreativepanels.com and feel free to leave a comment, share the link. Folks that click on the link, share the link, and we can go from there. But other than that, 2 beautiful kids, a beautiful wife, Riley, Ryan, and Stacy is my wife. You know, I'm a finance guy. I'm in the financial industry, and I'm enjoying life. And I'm about to watch the Gator game in 6 minutes. So
that's it. We're gonna go watch them get after Utah. I love that.
Yep. Go Gators.
Go Gators. Well, thanks, Rod. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you for episode 4 for our final companion episode here on the Walk On Podcast.